Hey everybody, my name is Paul Eston Jr., aka Boy Green. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome to Heavy on Jets on Facebook, and of course, on my Twitter account. We are streaming live simultaneously on all three different platforms. So make sure, first off, before we go any further, you show your support wherever you are. If you're on Twitter, hit that follow button, hit the heart, and give it a retweet, share it out, and feel free to do so. Also on YouTube, make sure you give a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button because we give New York Jets content all day, every day, and of course on Facebook as well, the Heavy on Jets Facebook page. Give it a nice thumbs up. We'd appreciate it. You can share it out as well. We are live here on a Monday, and every Monday here on all these different platforms, we take a look at who the New York Jets are playing next. And of course, that is the Miami Dolphins. And this man I'm about to welcome into the stream is a man that I've become great friends with over the years. The Jets play the Dolphins, of course, twice every year in the AFC East. And we've done a lot of these conversations in audio, but now we're bringing it to the visual world. It's 2021 for Pete's sake, so let's bring him in. That is, of course, Brian Miller, the site expert for Phin Phanatic, the fan-sided sister network covering all things Miami Dolphins. Brian, what's up, brother?
Hey, Paul, how are you? It's good to see you. I like this. This is kind of interesting.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So again, wherever everyone's watching, make sure a great follow, of course, is Brian Miller. You could check out the Phin Phanatic account, the nice verified blue check there, or just Brian's personal account as well. Make sure you give him some love. Brian, first off, man, let's go back to last year, 10 wins. I'm like, whoa, mama, where did this come from? Move over, Dan Marino. We've got a Dolphins team here. And then all of a sudden this year, I'm like, what gives? Brian, if you could try to pinpoint what's different from last year to this year, I mean, what is it?
I don't know. How much time do you have for this show? I think Dolphins fans are trying to figure out, was last year an anomaly? Is that what were our expectations too high this year? A lot of changes. So we got rid of some very good core veterans. Kyle Van Noy was cut, and he brought a leadership to the team, a leadership to the locker room. So now you're missing that. You've got a new offensive coordinator again. In fact, you've got two, and a play caller that we think is calling plays. We're not quite sure, at least at the beginning of the year, and Charlie Fry, quarterback coach. So you got all this stuff that's going on. You've got another offensive line coach, fourth offensive line coach in 3 years. There's a lot of things going on and a lot of questions, and the talent's hasn't improved like we thought they would. Austin Jackson started out at left tackle, right tackle. Now he's playing guard, and that's a first-round pick, 18th overall, I believe, last year. Solomon Kinley was drafted last year on the offensive line. He's a backup. So it's crazy. It really is. And I think Dolphins fans all over the place are kind of scratching their head going, what gives? Because a year ago, like you said, 10-6, we thought, hey, this is going to be a great season. Our schedule was favorable. Hasn't been the case.
Well, let's start up top. Brian Flores. Again, going back to last year, everyone was ready to crown him. Aha! Okay, New England Patriot coaches that go other places, they suck. They try to mimic the Bill Belichick thing, and it doesn't work out. Whether it's, Eric Mangini had some level of success with the Jets before flaming out, but, I mean, countless others, Matt Patricia and so many others all over the place have failed everywhere. But it seemed like Brian Flores was the difference. He was going to be different. They were ready to crown him last year. Now all of a sudden I hear Dolphins fans saying, fire him. He's terrible. Like, where is the truth? Where's the reality there?
Somewhere in between. This was a 5-year rebuild. He got a 5-year contract from Stephen Ross, and he was signed, and it was all guaranteed. And we're in year 3. I think where fans are frustrated is the fact that he couldn't make a decision with an offensive coordinator position, so he handed it to two guys, George Godsey and Eric Studsville, and said, here, you guys are going to run our offense. Nobody does that, and it's not working because our offense is atrocious. Then you talk about the offensive line coach like we talked about. That's not working out. The guy didn't have very much experience. Flores has kind of surrounded himself with a bunch of coaches that don't have a lot of experience, and I think that's part of the problem. But at the same time, you got to start asking about the talent. So fans are kind of on the fence. Is it Chris Greer, the general manager, that's the problem? Is Brian Flores the problem? What we can say for certain is if you look at the Bill Belichick coaching tree, there's no coaches that have come off of that have found success in the NFL as a head coach. So I think fans are starting to look at that too and saying, is this the right guy for the job? Then you turn around and you look at Thursday night where they showed up playing like they were the defense from last year and shut down a very good Ravens offense, keeping them under 100 yards rushing, keeping Lamar Jackson basically running for his life the entire game and not upfield. He was running backwards. So I don't know. Fans are kind of confused about this because you go back and you look at the games prior to Thursday night, and they didn't even show up for those games. I was at the Texans game too. Last Sunday, and I walked out. It was a victory, broke our 7-game losing streak, and we walked out, and the fans were very subdued. There wasn't a lot of cheering, not a lot of excitement. We had a 3.5-hour drive back to Orlando, and we're all just sitting there going, "Oh wow, they won." I mean, that's how exciting the game was. So
yeah, wow. Well, I guess the thing I have to ask is, again, the spectacular of beating the Ravens and being able to do that was awesome on Thursday night. I hate to go to the negative first, but when I heard that Jacoby Brissett was starting, I'm like, okay, makes sense, sure. You know what? Tua's not ready. Wait a second, Tua's ready enough to be the backup? Okay. And then so they went to Jacoby as the starter, but hey, if something goes wrong, we'll go to Tua. If you're healthy enough to be a backup, shouldn't you be healthy enough to be a starter?
Yes and no. And I think you gotta understand Flores' concept here. Tua still is learning this game. And the offensive line is, like we said, and you'll hear me say this over and over again, is atrocious. So now you put a quarterback into coming off of no work this week. He's missed 3 games previously this year because of broken ribs. He broke his finger, missed the Texans game, didn't practice at all during the week. He even said himself he went through mental reps. So, yeah, he could probably play in an emergency, but do you really want to put him out there if you don't have to? I think a lot of fans, maybe some in the media, made a really big issue out of this, and I don't see where there really was one. Jacoby Brissett was healthy. Tua, not so much. Good enough to play maybe, but, why risk it if you don't have to? Well, he came in off the bench. He looked a little rusty, shook it off pretty quick, made some plays, got him down the field, and he's starting this week even with his finger banged up. So they saw that he could play. They saw that he's going to get some work in, and we'll move forward with Tua until he gets hurt again or if he doesn't get hurt. But I don't read a whole lot into what happened last week because I think it's a coach's decision, and whether I agree with it or not, I can see where they were coming from in order to put him on the back end and say, maybe not this week. You haven't had to practice yet.
All right, well, let's get something I'm sure you've talked about too much this season. That is, speaking of quarterback, okay, Tua a year ago, top 5 pick. Oh, baby, Tua's the guy. A tank for Tua, people were saying. And somehow they didn't even have to trade up. They get him. Wow, phenomenal. And then all this chatter, and then it's been this weird, I mean, you know it better than me, but this weird roller coaster I'm seeing where, Deshaun Watson time now. I'm just kidding. He's not getting traded. Well, maybe he is. Oh, no, he's not. And then, that means Tua, some 3-team trade. He's going somewhere else. And Tua, in the meantime, is just starting games for the Dolphins, not really knowing what the hell's going on. And I think the most jarring thing for me from the outside of the Dolphins, inner circle is when the Dolphins owner reportedly, I think it was according to Ian Rappaport, spoke with Deshaun Watson on the phone on the eve of the trade deadline saying, hey, let's try to figure this out. And apparently, Mr. Ross didn't get what he was looking for from that conversation because the trade didn't happen. Give us the inside the Dolphin circle here because it's got to be weird because a top 5 pick is normally your quarterback forever. And just a year in, there's all these questions and the weird Deshaun Watson cloud that continues to hang over everything.
Yeah, to clear something up, Stephen Ross didn't talk to Deshaun Watson. Okay. They had requested permission to speak to him. My understanding is, and I think somebody from ESPN, it might have been Josina Anderson, said that there was no conversation actually took place. Okay. It didn't happen. So the fact that they reached out to potentially talk to him, not quite sure if that even happened or not, or why if it did. Chris Greer came out and had a press conference, which is extremely rare for a general manager to do during the course of the year, and came right out and said, hey, you got it. My job is to get this team better. And if an opportunity presents itself that you can improve on your quarterback position or any position, you explore the opportunity to do that. And that's what he said he did. Brian Flores said that he was transparent with Tua through the whole process. Tua said the same thing. Obviously, even if your coach is telling you what's going on, you're still sitting there going, okay, what's really going on? And I think a lot of people have said, you know what, I think I'm going to stick with my wife now because Tinder didn't work out for me. So it's kind of how it feels. But we're going to see this all flare back up again, because once this season is over, we start getting into late February, we start getting into March, when free agency starts up again and 2022 season's over. We're going to know Deshaun Watson's got depositions in February. He's going to be talking to, all this stuff, this legal stuff could very well be over with by March. Now you're looking at a whole new situation where all this is going to come back. So fans are going, you've got about a 7-week window here to prove that you can be the quarterback for the Dolphins. And the reality is it's, again, go back to the marriage thing. It's like, okay, honey, you got 7 months to prove to me that you're marriage material, even though I'm married to you, because if not, I'm going right over here because she turns 18 on Sunday. So, yeah. Those deals. But it's crazy. It was psychotic. You had half of the fan base wanting Deshaun Watson. You have half the fan base wanting Tua. And I think overall, everything kept coming back to, how can you do this with this guy that's got 22 assault charges pending? You don't know what's going on. And I think a lot of people said then, it's not going to happen. We came right up to that. You and I have talked about it over the course of the last couple months. But I think it really did come down to the night before. Everybody's sitting there glued to their computer screens. It was like a free agency. You kept hitting refresh. See if something's going to come up and pop up and happen. And it didn't, but that doesn't mean that it's not over with. Personally, I like Tua. I was not a Tua guy coming out of college. I was a Justin Herbert guy. I think you and I discussed that prior to the draft 2 years ago. But he's the quarterback for Miami now. And the kid's he's just a phenomenal kid. You got to love his attitude. You got to love, he has been dogged every step of the way in his career, and he's proved everybody wrong. So I'm waiting for him to prove everybody wrong again. He's got 7 weeks this time to do it. Honestly, I think if it comes down to free agency and Watson's cleared, I'm not quite sure the Dolphins are going to be the team that gets him anyway. I think a team like Carolina is going to throw those picks out, maybe Philadelphia. I think there's other teams with more firepower to throw it out there.
By the way, is it a 50-50 split with the Tua crowd and the anyone else, maybe Deshaun Watson, or just, the multiple choice question where it's other, fill in your response? Is it 50-50, or what is the split in the Dolphins fan base there? When, again, we're kind of looking at the Brian Miller conversation, as we're getting Brian back in here in a second, just lost him. But that's the big thing for me overall, is that quarterback conversation from the outside looking in is, again, how do we get it to the same realm? We drop Brian out, but we'll get him back in a second here on the show. But that's the big thing for me, as I look at this Dolphin situation from the outside looking in. Obviously, from my perspective, for me as a Jets fan, I don't want Deshaun Watson anywhere near this division. Again, I understand all this stuff, and that is, again, of the utmost importance and seriousness and everything. Is Deshaun Watson has to have all that figured out before he can even think about potentially playing in the NFL. Let's just add Brian Miller back to the conversation here.
I disappeared.
No, that's okay. So, Brian, going back into that, is that, again, a 50-50 split among the fan base of it being Watson, other, because, again, there's been other conversations, or Tua? Or if not, what is that split?
It's more, I would say, if there's any split at all, whatever percentage it is, I don't think it's half wanting Deshaun Watson as much as it is half wanting another quarterback.
I see.
There are people that don't like Tua at all, and they don't want him on the roster. There's people that absolutely love Tua, and that's the only person they think is going to lead this team to the future. As far as Deshaun Watson goes, I think he's the name. He was the name right now. He was, I think everybody probably almost universally looked at the whole situation going, is this a guy that you really want to bring in given the current situation? So I don't know if I would say 50. Yeah, maybe my wording was wrong. It's not Tua Watson. It's Tua and other. So
yeah, I see. No, and that's okay. And let's look ahead, of course, to this matchup. The New York Jets will play the Miami Dolphins. I'm sure a couple weeks ago the Jets are going, oh, yeah, the Dolphins, these offensive line issues, Brian, that you've mentioned. Fantastic. And I'm sure the Jets, along with all of us watching on Thursday Night Football, oh, boy, they shut down Lamar Jackson. What's that going to do for this Jets offense? Is that what happened against Baltimore is sustainable in some sense, that Miami found something
Yeah.
there and go, wait a second here. This is the Dolphins team we all thought they were.
Yeah, Xavier and Howard came out and said, I think it was 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago against the Bills. They had a very good defensive effort against the Bills. And it was a very close game. Miami's offense pretty much ruined it for him and didn't really give him a chance. But Xavier and Howard came out and said, we've kind of gone back to the way we called plays last year. It's something that we're familiar with. They're blitzing a lot more. So what the defense has gotten progressively better since Buffalo. And that was 3 weeks ago. So we're 3 games ago. And we're seeing that against the Ravens. That's real. I don't doubt that they're going to come out with a solid game plan against the Jets. Now, you talk about the Jets defense. Miami's offensive line has not changed. It is still absurdly horrible. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for the Jets front defense to put some damage and get into the backfield and disrupt stuff. Miami's offense doesn't scare anybody. I don't care who's back there being the quarterback. Tua hasn't shown enough to scare anyone. The wide receivers can't even stay healthy. I think we're still dealing with Jalen Waddle being out there, Kirk Merritt, Mac Hollins, maybe Preston Williams. I mean, he's always week to week for whatever reason. We don't even know about Devontae Parker yet. So we know Will Fuller's not going to play. Albert Wilson had a great game last week, but before that, I think he's had maybe 8 catches the entire season. So the Dolphins offense they're not going to be what leads this team to the playoffs. So if people are out there going, Tua Tagovailoa has got 7 weeks to prove anything, he's not going to prove it with this offense. It's that bad. The play call, you watch the game. I mean, you could sit and watch Thursday night's game, and the defense was such the focal point. It was hard to even concentrate on anything else. But you're going to watch the Dolphins offense for probably the first time this year against New York, and you're just going to sit back and go, if you guys lose, if you guys let us put up points, you're going to have to sit back and go, how? How did we not stop them? They literally are that bad. This offensive line is, it's so frustrating. Robert Hunt, great. Michael Dieter, great. But
yeah. I got to say, the Robert Hunt thing was one of the craziest things I think I've ever seen, because I've seen offensive linemen catch a ball by, mistake. A tip ball. Oh, boy, I guess I got to do something with this. Robert Hunt seemed to have intent on his mind, where he intercepted the ball from Gaskin. He's like, I'm going to the house, baby. And I'm like, whoa. And then doing juke moves and diving. I mean, that was fantastic.
Yeah, he was. We ought to start him at tailback instead of Malcolm Brown. I mean, Brown's injured; he's not going to be back this year, but wasted a lot of time on him earlier. And we thought Brown was going to be the bulldozer. No, Robert Hunt's the bulldozer, and this guy's not afraid to do anything. So put him in. But
and Mike Gesicki is another guy.
He's a social media icon with one play. I mean, he's a pop culture guy now. So it's crazy.
Phenomenal. I've seen him on T-shirts. I've seen people wearing the T-shirts of Hunt mid-air end zone dive. To have the wherewithal is spectacular. That was just a wow thing. Another wow thing for me has been Mike Gesicki. The athleticism and all that is interesting. And then I saw the 7 target number. So again, he was getting a lot of chances in theory. But it seems like every play, and maybe this is the problem, every play Mike Gesicki has to make some crazy play to make a catch. It doesn't seem like there's anything easy where you just kind of throw it out to him and boom, let him go do something. It seems like, again, I keep hearing that wide receiver tight end debate, but it seems like everything is so hard with him.
Yeah, I guess everybody's got their own opinion on what Mike Gesicki's role is. For me, I think the problem is our 2-headed OC situation, because I don't think they know how to use him. George Godsey was a tight end coach. You would think they would be able to get him more involved. But we don't see it. I mean, he is involved, but for the first half of the season so far, he didn't really come on until the fourth quarter. And then that's when he became the focus of the offense and he started putting up numbers. But then the following week, he's absent through the first half of the game. He's getting out there. He's on the field. I don't know why they ever take him off the field. This guy is as good as Travis Kelce, or could be if he was more involved in the offense. But this is a guy that can get out there. He can get separation. He can make those one-handed circus catches. He's got the body strength to take a hit and keep going. Get him in a seam route. Get him open across the middle behind the linebackers. There's so much potential for him. And for whatever reason, the Dolphins aren't using it. They don't need a lot of time for him to get downfield. And with the time that they have with their offensive line, that's probably a good thing. But I don't know. I don't know why we're not seeing more of him. He should be. Maybe they're afraid to throw him the ball because he's not under contract after this year, and they're afraid they're going to have to pay him even more.
Smart. There's next level from the Dolphins. They're always
surprise anybody.
By the way, speaking of that, and this is just a random side note, but as a draft guy, when the Dolphins did all the moving and grooving, it made me go interesting because the first move back, I'm like, yes, of course. And then to move back up after moving back to 6, I always thought was bizarre, especially since they did it ahead of the draft. So you had no idea who was there.
Right.
From the Dolphins' perspective, were they just always in love with Waddle and they're like, we need anything possible to get this guy? Was that the plan?
No, I don't think so. After a draft is over, you're never going to hear a GM come out and say, oh, no, I really like the other guy, but he went before we had a chance.
Yeah, of course.
It's just not going to happen. So I think when you look at the situation that Miami was in, taking that move back, I think it was, to 13 maybe? With
12, I believe.
12. Okay, so it's 12 or 13. So they moved back to San Francisco. They pick up a first-round pick next year. They pick up a first-round pick in 2023. And then they turned around and they traded it to Philadelphia to move up to 6. So in reality, there's a lot of fans that are not happy about it. But, okay, you basically moved from the 3rd overall pick to the 6th overall pick, and you gained a 2023 first-round pick. So the trade value is fine. The question is, like you asked, why didn't you stay at 3 and take a Kyle Pitts? Well, if you look at it and you say, I'm fine with Kyle Pitts, I am fine with Jamar Chase, I am fine with Jalen Waddle, now you know you're going to get one of those 3 guys at 6. Doesn't matter what happens. Nobody's going to trade up and take one of them. Atlanta was possibly going to trade down, if anything, because somebody was going to jump up for a quarterback. So, in reality speaking, you basically put San Francisco up there who you knew was going to take a quarterback, and that's pushing one of those 3 to 6. So you gained a pick out of it. You still got one of the 3 guys that you wanted. Now, a lot of the speculation was, should it have been Devontae Smith, who went to Philadelphia? Then you're talking about Miami staying at 12, keeping both first-round picks and taking Devontae Smith there. So if you talk about being in love with somebody, they obviously, in my opinion, weren't in love with Devontae Smith enough, or they would have probably stayed at 12. But I think a lot of people, they're kind of questioning it. I've questioned it myself. Where's the value in it? But, in the end, you knew you wanted probably 3 guys. You knew they were going to be there at 6, and that's what you did. You moved back up. You got rid of a 1, but you still have a 1, 2 years from now that you're going to be able to recoup.
Again, we're speaking with Brian Miller here.
Sean Watson, and then you got nothing.
Yeah, that's right. Again, we're speaking with Brian Miller here of Phin Phanatic for just a few more minutes. A couple of quickies here. First off, when I see on paper, even before the year, I'm like, wow, Xavier Howard and Byron Jones. Wow, look at this. People would die for 1 really, really good corner. The fact to have 2 on paper is spectacular. Have they played that way this year?
No. Xavier Howard kind of had a quasi holdout throughout the training camps, the voluntary stuff he didn't show up for. Showed up for training camp because he had to. Immediately said he was hurt and couldn't practice, so he sat out. They reworked it. They gave him more money because he wanted to be the highest paid player on the team again, which was what he was 2 years ago. And then last year they brought in Byron Jones, paid him more. So now Xavier Howard's sitting there going, well, wait a minute. I want my money. I want to be the top guy. All right, whatever. He started out okay, but he hasn't played as well as a lot of people thought. He's starting to play better over the last 3 weeks as the defense has gotten better. He's playing better. Byron Jones is a good cornerback. He's not somebody that's going to get interceptions. That's not his gig. He is a guy that's not going to let a lot of passes go by him and a lot of completions, and he's still doing that. So he's not bad. A lot of money's tied up there. But for the Dolphins, their gem right now is sitting a little bit further back at safety, and that's Javon Holland. And you guys are going to get to see him on Sunday. And Holland is developing into, a lot of people are saying this is a kid that's going to be an all-pro middle of next season.
Wow.
He could be an all-pro by the end of this season. He's playing that well. This is a guy that he is bought into everything that the coaches are selling him, and he is playing lights out. It's just watching this kid play and develop is amazing. And it's just so good to see this kind of play out there. Like I said, you guys are going to get to see him. Hopefully, from our standpoint, he has a great game again and continues.
Yeah.
You're going to probably want to sit there come Sunday afternoon and go, I don't know what the hell he was talking about. Holland sucks. Yeah. But I think that's the case.
I don't think so either. I was watching on Thursday night. It was either instincts or the heat-seeking missile. One or the other was always. I was like, "Oh my god, this guy's always on the screen. What is happening here?" So I think you're right. I think you guys have found a special gem there in the old safety ballpark as well. He looks good. He looks real good. And let's also go to this. Let's go to the game. I love doing this on a Monday because, of course, we don't know the full injury report. We did hear a couple of nuggets, obviously, from Flores already today on some people are already out or Tua starting and information like that. But obviously, as we progress deeper through a week, Wednesday, of course, we'll get a lot more on that. But I like getting an early temperature of what the game is going to be. So Jets Dolphins, Brian, we've done this for a lot of years. What is this one going? What kind of game do you anticipate? Drop a score prediction if you're ready here on a Monday. I want to hear it.
You know, if there's one thing that we can say about these two teams is it doesn't matter if one is undefeated and one is
right
hasn't won a game. These games are played with a totally different mentality. This is the first game that Tagovailoa is going to start against the Jets. He's only thrown 2 passes against the Jets in 2 years.
Wow, I forgot about that. Yeah,
when he came in at the end of the game in Miami, when the game was already won, he basically mopped up through 2 passes out of their end zone in relief of Fitzpatrick. He didn't play last year at MetLife. So this is the first time that he's going to face the Jets outside of those 2 passes, and the first time he's ever going to go into MetLife. And it's an interesting situation up there in MetLife because, and I'm going to throw this to you before we start talking a little bit more about the game, this is MetLife takeover weekend for the Dolphins.
Yes.
And we get basically two full sections up in the upper deck that the Jets allot for Dolphins fans.
Yeah.
That can make you very happy knowing that that's a lot of noise coming from the upper corner.
Yeah. So that I was just there actually for the Bills, and it seemed like they did that for the entire stadium for Bills fans. I'm not sure if that was specially allotted or that's just how it worked out, but that was certainly the case because when the Jets were making their player introductions, you know, the normal time for a stadium to go crazy and the starting offense, and I was hearing boos, and I'm like, okay, it's not just boos from angry Jet fans. I was looking around, I'm like, these are boos because there's so many gosh darn Bills fans here. So I anticipate a similar, feeling certainly on Sunday against the Dolphins.
As far as the game goes, I'm not quite. I expect it to be a physical game defensively for both teams. I think the Jets defense is going to come out and they're going to want to just beat the hell out of Tagovailoa. I think the Dolphins defense is going to come out and do whatever they have to do to shut down, what there is of the Jets offense right now, whether it's White, whether it's Wilson. I'm not quite sure who's going to start. I think Wilson's still out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he still is at this point. Salah just spoke right before we jumped on, and he said he's not going to give any update till Wednesday. So we have no idea right now.
No idea. So we know that it'll be one of the two. And if I'm Sal, I'm not naming my quarterback until I absolutely have to either. We know that Tua is going to start, but you can't really hide that because he came in last week and he played well. So I think that it's going to really come down to how well the Dolphins offense can manage the Jets defense and vice versa. The Dolphins defense, like I said, they're playing really well. I don't think they're going to have a letdown this game because their backs are against the wall. The Jets' backs are against the wall. I think the expectations for the Dolphins have been a lot higher this year than what the Jets fans have had and what the media has had for the Jets. So what you guys are seeing happening wasn't really a big surprise. Miami going from a 10-6 team to basically 2 weeks ago being 1-7, and that was a big deal. That was huge. So I think the locker room is starting to come alive. I think they're getting on each other. So I don't see a letdown this week, but I do see, Miami's had a tendency to play down the teams and not to knock the Jets, but they're not a great football team. I would considerably say that on both sides of the ball, Miami should have more talent, but it's unrealized. Then you look at the offense and you go, well, this stellar wide receiver unit that you had coming in through camp, Will Fuller's played in 2 games. He's caught, I think, 8 passes. Now he's on IR for a broken finger that he's been dealing with for about 6 weeks. Devontae Parker, maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. Game time decision. Preston Williams, the same thing. And now we're dealing with guys off the practice squad that are coming in and playing. And you can't be consistent like that when you have those type of wide receivers. But then again, there's one thing that we can say consistently about the Dolphins wide receivers is we're playing a lot of practice squad guys. So maybe it does work, but it's going to be a tough game. And I think both teams are going to come out wanting to prove a point because it's these two teams and neither one of these teams like losing to the other.
And to me, that's the key. We've talked about this for years. It's not what it was, obviously, when you had Marino and O'Brien facing off back in the day, or what the rivalry meant. But what still bears true, no matter what, is that again, whether the Jets are 8-1, 1-8, 2-7, 7-2, you wipe all that off the board for these particular matchups, and it's just the any given Sunday thing that either one could take out the other with spectacular play. And that's what excites me, quite frankly, about these games twice every year, that's always the case.
Paul, it's so funny. And we've talked about this. I think you and I have been doing this now for 5-6 years or something like that. And we'll probably end up talking. Well, we will talk again in a few weeks when we play each other.
That's true, right.
But it's very interesting because when the Jets or the Dolphins play the Bills, we kind of have a good idea where the game's going to go. Right. 3 weeks ago, I wasn't sitting there going, oh, this is going to go either way. It's not. The Bills were going to win. They're a better talented team. We know that was going to happen. When you play New England, from a Dolphin standpoint, we go to Foxborough, we're not going to win 98% of the time. You come to Miami, and we're probably going to win. I can tell you right now, when you play the Jets, whether it's in MetLife, whether it's at Hard Rock, I have no idea what's going to come out of that game. And I haven't, dating back to the Ken O'Brien, Dan Marino years, which I sat up many, many nights going, what just happened?
Right.
So it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. With these two teams, you just have no idea. And I think that's what makes this rivalry so interesting because I hate the Jets. The Jets hate the Dolphins. I don't like the Patriots. I couldn't stand them, but I never really have. But I've never loathed them like I do the Jets. Just because you guys have broken our hearts too many times. It's a rival. And I think it dates back all the way to the Super Bowl 3 with Shula. And Shula hated the Jets after that. He hated Joe Namath. Comes to Miami, and that rivalry was built off of Super Bowl 3 and hasn't changed at all.
And I absolutely love it. And like I told you this privately, I'll say it publicly as we're streaming live here, Heavy on Jets, YouTube, Twitter, and everything else. My favorite other part of course, is the networking that's involved when I do all these games is I get to speak to all my friends in other places, whether it's divisional twice a year or other places once every 4 years, depending on how it works out. Brian, we've been doing this for 5-6 years. I'm losing count. And it'll be another 20 years in the future. It's always a lot of fun. So, Brian, thanks, man. Yeah, give a quick shout out, of course. Even though these are primarily Jets listeners in here, I do think that they do enjoy kind of watching the other content leading into game week to kind of absorb the Dolphins action. So feel free to give a plug, my man.
Yeah, we're at Phin Phanatic. That's PhinPhanatic on Twitter. And it's also phinphanatic.com. Feel free to come over and harass me about the game and harass me about the articles that I write. Dolphins fans do. Might as well get some Jets fans in there as well. So it's all good. Great rivalry, Paul. Always a pleasure. I like this better than the phone thing. We'll keep this moving forward. This is a brand new thing this year, and I got to be honest, we've gotten a great response from fans. I see people chiming in all over the place. So this is a new addition. I think that will stay. It's been a lot of fun, Brian. It's good to see you, literally and also figuratively, for this rivalry and series. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Paul.